Alright everyone, a very happy Thursday to you. I hope you are all well. Going to change tack a little bit on today's video. Take a little bit of a break from the constant news cycle, which we can get back into tomorrow, look ahead to this weekend's game, etc. Today I just want to peer forward a little bit further, a good few months ahead, and look at the Champions League next season, what that could look like for Celtic with qualifying, the kind of teams we could face, and just cover a good few things because it's kind of on my mind after a news story that emerged yesterday. 2 days ago that we touched on yesterday, but we can get on to that. I did touch on this stuff kind of recently. It was the one I did from Adelaide, or Berlin, as some of you legends pointed out. Loved that. But that was more of a money and coefficients video based on what happened for Celtic in Europe this season. We're looking ahead to next season today. And before we get started, today's show has been created in affiliation with the legends at NordVPN. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. A VPN secures your connection, protecting your personal information and online activity. A VPN also, and this is my favourite feature everyone, can make your phone or laptop appear like it's in another country, making it great for accessing content while travelling. Now, just to give you a wee example, if you were going on holiday in the coming months, which personally I hope you are, I hope you're getting a wee bit of sun in your life, but you want to stay in touch with Celtic, still watch the games on Sky Sports, Premier Sports, could be some big games coming up on those two channels, trophy lifts hopefully, then a VPN can allow you to do that while you're out of the UK or wherever else you live. Now, if you want to try NordVPN for yourself, our special link will get you 74% off NordVPN's 2 years plans, plus 3 extra months. There's no risk either with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. Just go to nordvpn.com/CelticAM. That's nordvpn.com/CelticAM. The link is also in the description. Okay, we'll start nice and simple today. As always, as I always say, you should be able to watch this video at the end of a drunken night on the town, and it should still make some sort of sense to you. So that's the plan. We'll start by saying, and you will hopefully know this, that this season's Scottish Premiership winners will not get automatic entry into next season's UEFA Champions League phase. That has clearly been the case over the past 3 seasons. Thank you, Rangers. Everyone, say thank you, Rangers. Their points tally has helped us to get straight into the Champions League by winning the Premiership. So yeah, next season for the first time in 4 years, that will not be the case. That's the bad news. The good news is that the Scottish Premiership winners, okay, let's just say Celtic, because that's probably the way things are going to head, will have just one round of qualifying to navigate. So not like 2017 and 2018 when we had to come through like 4 qualifying rounds, I think, at one stage. Just a single qualifying round to get through. That will take place on August the 19th and 20th for the first leg. Second leg a week later, August the 26th and August the 27th. If we win that, clearly we're into the Champions League phase. The big giant 36-team league table will be part of that again. If we lose the tie, we'll be into the Europa League's version. Okay, at present, there's only one team confirmed into the Champions League qualifying playoff round, and that is the Norwegian champions Bodo Glimt, a name that may still strike some sort of fear into your heart. Assuming they don't win the Europa League, they'll be in there. They'll be joined in that round by the champions of Scotland, us, the champions of Switzerland, which could really be like any of, I think, about 6 teams at the moment. Very tight league there in Switzerland. And the champions of Austria, which is probably between Austria Wien, Sturm Graz, who won it last year, and Red Bull Salzburg, plus 6 winners from the previous round of qualifying. So a total of 10 teams, meaning that we would need to find ourselves in the top 5 in terms of coefficient to make sure that we're seeded for that round. And that could clearly be very important. I mean, who fancies Bodo Glimt or Red Bull Salzburg over a two-legged qualifier? Certainly not me. So let's get to the heart of this now. Will Celtic be seeded for the playoff round? We don't know at this stage. There's a fair few variables, like what teams could win certain leagues and what teams could come through the earlier rounds of qualifying, and even like some teams who are still in Europe this season could add some further points to their tally and change the picture a little bit. However, I have identified 8 danger teams. Now, the definition of a danger team is that they're ahead of us in the coefficient table at the moment, the big giant coefficient table, and they have the prospect of being in the playoff round, so the round we enter of Champions League qualifying. If they are in that round, they would be ranked ahead of us and could potentially force us into an unseeded place. So let's just go through these 8 danger teams. The first one is Olympiacos, who look extremely likely to win the Greek Super League, as they do virtually every season. If they do that, they'll enter the Champions League at the second qualifying round. That's 2 rounds prior to us. So if they win 2 rounds of qualifying, they will take one of the seeded places in the playoff round. Similarly, our friends from this season, Dinamo Zagreb, would enter the second qualifying round if they can win the Croatian League. The good news here is that they're currently third in that, 5 points off the top. Hajduk Split are top of that at the moment. Rijeka are second. They're both well behind us in the coefficient. So if either of them win the league, very good news for us. Dinamo Zagreb winning it, not good news for us. Although they weren't up to much this season, were they? Still couldn't beat them. Shakhtar Donetsk are going to be in qualifying if they can manage to win the Ukrainian Premier League. Now, rather surprisingly, they're currently third in that and 10 points off the top. So they do have a game in hand there, but it looks like they're not going to win that league, and therefore that's good news for us. I think Dynamo Kiev are currently leading that league, but if they win the league, they're behind us in coefficient. So again, Kiev winning the league, good news. Shakhtar winning the league, yes, bad news. Okay, number 4, Red Bull Salzburg. They would enter the Champions League at the same round as us. They would take one of the seeded spots if, and it's a big if, they can win the Austrian Bundesliga. As previously said, they're third at the moment, but they're just 4 points off the pace. Again, any of the other teams in Austria, who did I say earlier, was Sturm Graz, one of them, and Austria Wien. If either of them win the league, that's good news for us. Bodo Glimt are going to be in the playoff round and they're going to take a seeded spot. The only complication here is if they somehow find a way to win the Europa League. Bodo Glimt aren't going to win the Europa League, are they? So we probably shouldn't even mention that. So they're going to take one of the places in the qualifying round, one of the seeded places. Number 6 threat is Copenhagen. They're currently second in the Danish Superliga, just behind Midtjylland. If they were to win the league, they'd enter the second qualifying round as well. Number 7 is Crvena Zvezda, who are going to win the Serbian Superliga again. They'll also enter the second round of qualifying. Second round of qualifying is pretty stacked, and they have a higher coefficient than us as well. And finally, Ferencvaros, who we played a few years ago. They're ahead of us in terms of coefficients, but they're actually second in the Hungarian league at the moment. So yeah, 8 teams there who would take one of the seeded spots ahead of us should they be in the final round of Champions League qualifying. Bodo Glimt already there, as we say. So basically we need 4 of the remaining 7 to fail for whatever reason. So either for them to not win their domestic league, the likes of Dinamo Zagreb, Red Bull Salzburg, Shakhtar Donetsk, that applies to, or to go out in an earlier round of qualifying. If either of them happen to 4 of the 7 teams there, then we will be seeded for the playoff round. So will that happen? It's very hard to say. I'm sorry after going through all of that just to come down and say we still don't really know. Like it's difficult. It's going to. I think we'll have a better idea by the end of this season. Like if the likes of Copenhagen and Salzburg and Shakhtar Donetsk and Dinamo Zagreb, like say 3 of them weren't to win their domestic league, you'd clearly be feeling very good about us being seeded. If they all win their domestic leagues, you're starting to think that we might be heading for an unseeded spot in the playoff round. Should be said, by the way, that the impressive Twitter page Football Rankings, who crunch the numbers and then some, far more than me, they have us down to make the league phase of the Champions League in all of their projections and predictions. I don't know exactly what that's based on. Like, I don't know how they can look at it and say Celtic will win their playoff tie, but they clearly have some sort of faith in us. And I guess the days of us being a team that people would want to face in a Champions League qualifier are probably over, given how well we performed in last season. Anyway, just football rankings, just to give you an idea, their most recent projection has us as a seeded team in the playoff round with the potential opponents. And this isn't going to be the case. This is definitely going to change, but it's just to give you an idea. Potential opponents, FCSB, that's the old Steaua Bucharest, Dynamo Kiev, Sturm Graz, Lugano of Switzerland, and Malmo of Sweden. Now, I think they did this in like late February, early March, so I'm assuming things have changed a fair bit there. If you're wondering, looking at that, why Paphos have a pretty low coefficient but are seeded, just to add an extra layer of complication to things, as you might know, UEFA make the draw for the playoff round before the previous round has been played. So if a team like Paphos was to beat a seeded team, they would then take their seeding spot. It's all very simple, as you can imagine, with UEFA. But yeah, imagine a playoff tie against Malmo or Dynamo Kiev. I kind of feel like that's probably what you're looking at if we are seeded. If we're not seeded, potentially Bodo Glimt, which would certainly give me the fear, Copenhagen, Crvena Zvezda, someone like that, which would probably be a bit of a step up. And I mean, I say Bodo Glimt would be a very tough tie. But equally, the last match we saw Celtic play in Europe, we were like 30 seconds away from winning away to Bayern Munich. So we shouldn't necessarily fear any of these teams in qualifying. I think we should feel good about our chances, but it's also, you know, with a bit of bad luck here, you could face a pretty challenging match. Like, as I say, like Shakhtar Donetsk or someone would be a bit of a nightmare just to get into the Champions League. But yeah, I think it's good to feel good about Celtic. It was a really good season in Europe last year, and we should feel good about the team's chances. As I say, it's kind of middle to the end of August we're talking for this qualifying round. So in theory, we should have a bit of transfer business done. Certainly Kieran Tierney should be settled in by that stage. The Scottish Premiership begins in the first weekend of August, so a good 2 or 3 matches potentially under our belts, competitive matches under our belts before we get to that qualifier. So we should be well up to speed by that stage and kind of ready to peak. And yeah, as much as, you know, we clearly want to win that and get into the UEFA Champions League, it's all about improving, and getting there for a 4th season in a row would be a pretty good achievement. By the way, Celtic have never done that. We've never played in the UEFA Champions League 4 seasons in a row in terms of the tournament proper. I was looking back at that earlier. So since like 1992, I think our record is 3 seasons in a row in the group stage. And then we've spent time in the Europa League or whatever. So if we manage to get into the Champions League proper for a 4th season in a row, that would be a record. It'd be really good progress for the club. And obviously we all hope that's the case. But worst case scenario, very worst case scenario, you're heading into the Europa League for a minimum of 8 matches in that competition, probably more. And I think a lot of people felt this season, given how we played, that they would have liked the opportunity to drop into the Europa League, and we maybe would have done quite well in that competition. So I'm not going to go as far as saying it's win-win with the Champions League qualifier. Clearly, we want to get into the Champions League, and there'll be real disappointment and probably a bit of anger if we fail at qualifying again. But I think after all of that, there would be the potential for something special in the Europa League as well. So I feel pretty good about Europe next season. I think whatever happens in that qualifier, we're still going to have another 8 matches to look forward to with the possibility of more. And as I say, I think we should feel good about Celtic. We made real strides in Europe this season, and there's no reason to suggest why we can't see similar next year. The final thing, and I did mention this yesterday, but there will be the opportunity for Celtic to request a postponement of our league match that's in between the 2 legs of our qualifier. The SPFL announced that yesterday, that we're going to be able to do that, and I would fully expect Celtic to take up that opportunity. The draw for the Champions League playoff round is on August the 4th, so still a good 4 months away, but we like to get in nice and early on this channel. Okay, I'm going to head off for now, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. I will return tomorrow when we'll talk news and look ahead to Saturday's game.